Ubisoft's next big project could be the return of Ghost Recon, and we're finally starting to hear more details about what the next game might actually look like. The project is reportedly known internally as Project Over, and based on the latest reports, this new Ghost Recon game could be very different from Breakpoint. Ubisoft appears to be taking the franchise in a more grounded, tactical, and hardcore direction. However, there's another side to this story. Recent reports also suggest that development hasn't been going as smoothly as Ubisoft probably hoped. According to multiple insider reports, Project Over, which is believed to be the codename for the next Ghost Recon game, is still targeting a 2027 release window. But behind the scenes, the development team may be facing some major challenges. So, let's talk about everything we've heard about the next Ghost Recon, including the rumored setting, the new open world, changes to combat, mission variety, weapon customization, and some major features that have reportedly been cut or delayed. Starting with the setting, this time we're apparently leaving behind locations like Bolivia and Breakpoint's fictional island of Oro. According to reports, the next Ghost Recon game will take place in a fictional Southeast Asian country, and honestly, this type of setting could be perfect for a tactical military game. The world is reportedly going to feature dense jungles, remote villages, massive mountain regions, and large urban environments. All of these locations are expected to blend together into one huge open world. The main goal seems to be creating an environment where every mission can play out differently depending on how you approach it. You might spend time scouting an enemy base from a nearby mountain. Another player could move through the jungle and enter from the opposite side. Or maybe you decide to wait until nighttime, cut the power, and quietly eliminate enemies before they even realize you're there. That freedom of approach has always been one of Ghost Recon's biggest strengths, and Project Over reportedly wants to take that idea even further. Combat is also expected to be much more brutal and unforgiving than what we saw in Breakpoint. Enemies are said to react more realistically, and firefights could be significantly deadlier. Ammunition management, positioning, and tactical awareness will apparently matter much more. Basically, running directly into an enemy compound with no plan probably isn't going to end well, and that's exactly the kind of direction many Ghost Recon fans have been asking for. The open world is also expected to play a much bigger role than simply being a giant map filled with icons and objectives. Reports suggest that players will be encouraged to gather intelligence, scout enemy positions, and naturally discover operations while exploring the world. Instead of constantly following markers on the map, you may have to investigate areas, talk to certain characters, intercept enemy communications, or discover information that leads you to your next operation. Missions could also be completed in different orders depending on how you explore the map. If Ubisoft can actually pull this off, the open world could feel much more alive and unpredictable. Instead of opening the map, selecting an icon, completing the objective, and moving on to the next one, you could actually feel like a ghost operating deep inside hostile territory. And mission variety is reportedly going to be a major focus. According to the latest information, Ubisoft is planning dozens of different mission types. These could include hostage rescue operations, sabotage missions, intelligence gathering, assaults on military compounds, eliminating high-value targets, recovering stolen equipment, and disrupting enemy logistics. There could also be operations where your main objective isn't simply to eliminate every enemy in the area. Maybe you need to enter a heavily guarded compound, steal information, and escape without being detected, or maybe you're tasked with destroying a specific piece of military equipment before enemy reinforcements arrive. Combined with a dynamic day and night cycle and changing weather conditions, every operation could feel completely different depending on when and how you decide to tackle it. A mission completed during the day might involve long-range combat and careful positioning. The same mission at night could become a completely different experience with limited visibility, night vision, suppressed weapons, and stealth becoming much more important. Weather could also potentially change the battlefield. Heavy rain or fog might reduce visibility and make it easier to approach an enemy position. But at the same time, it could make long-range engagements much more difficult. These systems sound extremely promising on paper. Weapon customization is also expected to return as one of the game's major features. Ghost Recon has always been known for giving players a lot of control over their weapons and equipment, and Project Over reportedly planned to introduce an even deeper customization system. However, one of the newest reports claims that Ubisoft has actually reduced the scope of its original weapon workbench system. Apparently, the development team originally planned a much more advanced customization feature, but because of development schedules and deadlines, the system was eventually scaled back. That doesn't mean weapon customization has been removed. It's still expected to be an important part of the game. It simply might not be as deep or ambitious as Ubisoft originally planned. And that brings us to the bigger story surrounding Ghost Recon right now. According to reports from Insider Gaming, Ubisoft has reportedly been forced to reduce the overall scope of the project after developers internally raised concerns about unrealistic deadlines, planning issues, and management problems. Several features have apparently been removed or delayed simply to keep development moving toward its next major milestone, and some of these cuts are fairly significant. One report claims that helicopters have actually been removed from the game for now. Apparently, implementing helicopters properly was considered too risky given the current development timeline. That's obviously disappointing because helicopters have been a huge part of the Ghost Recon experience, especially in large open world environments. Flying across the map with your squad, landing near an enemy base, and beginning an operation was one of the most memorable parts of Wildlands. Removing helicopters could completely change how players travel around the world. However, it's important to remember that the game is still reportedly in development. It's always possible that helicopters could return later if development becomes more stable. Features are constantly added, removed, redesigned, and tested during game development, so I wouldn't consider this a permanent decision just yet. Other features have also reportedly been pushed back or removed. These include proximity mines, a deeper weapon workbench system, camp jammers, the ability to rescue tied-up hostages during missions, NPCs dynamically executing hostages, enemies shooting from moving vehicles, and even a completely new currency system. The new currency system has apparently been replaced with more traditional military credits. Now, none of these features individually destroy the game, but together they do show that Ubisoft may be making some difficult decisions behind the scenes to keep development on track. And this is where Project Over becomes really interesting. On one hand, the overall concept sounds incredibly promising. A grounded tactical Ghost Recon game set in a massive Southeast Asian open world, with brutal combat, realistic enemy reactions, intelligence gathering, dynamic missions, changing weather, and multiple ways to approach every objective sounds like exactly what many fans have wanted. But on the other hand, reports of development problems, management issues, unrealistic deadlines, and features being cut are definitely concerning. The biggest question is whether Ubisoft can protect the core vision of the game while reducing its scope, because having fewer features isn't necessarily a bad thing. A smaller, more focused tactical experience could actually be better than an enormous open world filled with unfinished systems. What really matters is execution. If the gunplay feels great, the AI is intelligent, the missions are dynamic, and the open world actually rewards tactical planning, Project Over could potentially bring Ghost Recon back in a huge way. But if Ubisoft rushes development just to meet a deadline, we could end up seeing some of the same problems that hurt Breakpoint at launch. For now, the next Ghost Recon is still reportedly targeting a 2027 release window, which means there's still plenty of time for the project to change. And I'm sure we're gonna hear a lot more about Project Over as development continues. But now I wanna hear from you. What do you think about the direction of the next Ghost Recon? Do you like the idea of a more brutal and realistic tactical experience? And what do you think about some of these reportedly removed features, especially helicopters? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more Ghost Recon news, gaming updates, and the latest information on upcoming Ubisoft games, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.